We have seen this. The palace, I think, tried to do it quietly, but of course it ends up in the London Gazette, which is the official journal of public record here within the United Kingdom. And at midday today, it was published that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, almost said Prince there, but I forgot, but I didn't quite, has been stripped formally by the King of his Knight of the Garter honour, which is the oldest and most noble order of chivalry in Britain, something he acquired in 2006 by the late Queen.
And occupied alongside noble figures like Sir Tony Blair.
Exactly, Tom. And Andrew Lloyd Webber for some balance as well.
Today, we're going over the newest turn in the long, tiring story of Royal Lodge, a headline that has many royal followers quietly wondering what is really going on. After months of talk about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor moving out, payout offers, and the exact terms inside his lease, a fresh interior check has now uncovered a surprising shift. The huge 30-bedroom Royal Lodge, one of the most prestigious homes on the Windsor grounds, is reportedly in such rough condition that Andrew may walk away with nothing, not even a pound of the nearly 500,000 people once believed he might receive. This new detail has sparked more debate. What exactly has gone on inside the home after 20 years of Andrew living there? Why is the damage so serious that the Crown Estate has told Parliament he will very likely get no compensation at all?
Buckingham Palace has previously stated, His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. Andrew is expected to relocate to a private property on the Sandringham estate. His ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, who has also lost her Duchess of York title, is said to be making her own living arrangements.
Let's begin with the key points from the Crown Estate's review. On the 12th of November, officials carried out a full inspection inside Royal Lodge. This was their first step toward evaluating the property before Andrew eventually leaves. In a letter sent to MPs, which became public shortly after, the Crown Estate said the house had major deterioration and many repairs urgently required. The message was plain. They explained that in all probability, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will not receive any payment for ending his lease ahead of schedule. This is a dramatic shift. For years, the estimated number discussed was around $488,000. Under the deal he signed back in 2003, Andrew could have qualified for compensation only if the property was returned in a solid and carefully kept state. Instead, the Crown Estate seems to have found the complete opposite.
In a dramatic move that marks the latest chapter in a long-running royal saga, King Charles has officially stripped Prince Andrew of his remaining royal honors. On December 1st, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's membership in the prestigious Order of the Garter was formally cancelled, as announced in the Gazette.
Andrew has stayed at Royal Lodge for decades. He pays no rent because he made a large upfront payment for a 75-year lease that cost more than £8.5 million. Normally, his yearly rent would have been around £260,000, but he avoided that by paying in advance for planned renovation expenses instead. For the past 20 years, the agreement was extremely comfortable. The only fee due was a single peppercorn each year, and that was only if someone requested it. The Crown Estate explained in its letter to MPs that the terms were reasonable and matched property standards at that time. An architect signed off on all the renovation plans, and no concerns were raised during the early years of Andrew's tenancy. So how did we end up with a 30-bedroom estate with formal gardens, staff rooms, and historic interiors now being described as run down and worn out?
He's also been stripped of his Knight Grand Cross of Royal Victorian Order, which is the highest order of knighthood within the UK. So it's more of a formality because we knew this was going to happen, but it is yet another reminder that Andrew really has lost everything in terms of his royal titles, apart from, you may recall, the dukedom legally and formally, because that does require an Act of Parliament to completely lose it. But the King has basically done all he can within his power to remove everything he can from his brother.
The review is still underway, but early notes suggest the home has suffered from age, wear, and long overlooked upkeep. They mentioned the condition was not unusual for a tenancy of this length, a polite way of saying this happens after many years of use. Even so, the repairs seem extensive enough that Andrew will not meet the standard needed to claim any kind of reimbursement. How does someone who once had staff, funding, and the late Queen's support allow the home to fall into such shape? Some people say the answer is simple. Money was short, so maintenance slipped and key work was pushed aside. Others claim Andrew focused on a few upgrades years ago and left the rest for later. That has not been proven, but it could explain why the Crown Estate has finally decided to step in now.
The United Kingdom's official public record. The statement read, "The King has directed that the appointment of Andrew Albert Christian Edward Mountbatten Windsor to be a Knight Companion of the Most Noble Order of the Garter shall be cancelled and annulled, and that his name shall be erased from the register of the said order." In addition, Andrew's title as Knight of the Grand Cross of the Royal Victoria Order was also annulled the same day.
And will take over responsibility only after he officially hands back the keys. Now, I want to touch on the move itself because there is still confusion about the timeline. Earlier reports suggested he might be out before the year ended, but newer information shows a slower pace. Some critics say he is delaying, but most believe Andrew will move once his replacement home is ready. At the moment, that seems to be late February. That is the first realistic target for his departure. However, and this is where things get messy, the lease technically allows him to remain for almost another year if he wants to. The date often mentioned is the 30th of October 2026. In theory, this means he could stay into next year and possibly even longer, even though most observers doubt he will do that. Some outlets have reported a possible exit in January 2026. It all depends on when his new home is finished and how talks with the Crown Estate go. Several royal reporters say Andrew knows the tide has changed and that the King wants the matter settled far sooner. But until a fixed date is added to the lease papers, the final timeline remains open. So right now we are looking at two main paths. One says he moves within months once his new place is ready. The other says he could stay into next autumn if he uses the full notice period allowed. What is clear is that the worsening condition of Royal Lodge has become a major part of the issue. It shifts the financial outlook for Andrew, removes any chance of compensation, and allows the Crown Estate to move forward with taking the house back. It also brings up the question of what comes next. After Andrew returns the keys, the Crown Estate will carry out a deeper check of the entire building. They will decide what must be fixed before someone else can move in. That could include roof repairs, plumbing, wiring, window work, and structural testing on a property almost 200 years old. Estates this large do not bounce back quickly. It could be months before a new resident is even considered. The wider royal family will be watching this closely. Royal Lodge has always held emotional weight because of the late Queen Mother, its status, and its location near Windsor Great Park. The King has long favored Andrew shifting to a smaller home on the Sandringham estate, which would cut costs and end this long debate. Whether that happens in early 2026, we will simply have to wait. For now, the focus stays on the fact that Royal Lodge is not in the condition required by the lease. That alone explains why Andrew's hope of compensation has vanished. It also strengthens the Crown Estate's role as they move toward taking back control. This story has shifted many times, but this latest update might be the most expensive for Andrew. He is still fully responsible for the upkeep until he leaves. The enormous cost of running the property is staggering. Reports suggest the minimum monthly expense is well over £30,000. That includes staff pay, insurance, heating, security, and the steady upkeep needed for a huge aging house with acres of land. Some insiders say the number is much higher during winter months when heating alone rises sharply. It gives a clear picture of why the Crown Estate wants a firm plan and why Andrew's money situation has drawn so much attention. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with this thought. Do you think Andrew will go in February as forecast, or will he wait out the lease and stay every last month he can? Share your thoughts below, and if you liked this update, remember to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching.